Today, I am going to be breaking down your potential breakout stars for this 2024-2025 Calgary Flames season.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Today, we're going to be breaking down 3 players that I think will have a breakout year for one reason or another, and why I think that this is their time. And we're going to dive into all that. And I want to hear from y'all who you think might have a breakout year and who's going to shine, because we got to breathe some positivity back into this off season. So again, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts. Here for you 3 days a week through the month of August, and we will be back in full swing 5 days a week in September. Let's just jump right in. I think the first candidate is pretty obvious here. Dustin Wolf. This is going to be, a big year for him. This is his time to prove himself. He is coming off of his first, he had a handful, really 17, 18 games last season with the Flames. And that's, dip your toes in, get a little familiar with what's going on at the NHL level. And, he's demonstrated that he is capable of playing competitive hockey. And he knows that this is what's next. And he has all the accolades, the resume, the stats to back up why he is on such a good path to success at the NHL level. And I think expecting him to go out and have like a Vezina caliber season is just absolutely ridiculous. And I don't expect anyone to come into their first full professional year of hockey and dominate that way unless you're like Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid. That's that simple as that. But I don't know how they're going to run this tandem of Vladar and Wolf, because at the end of the day, you have Vladar, who is a backup goaltender who has played less than 100 NHL games, and you have Dustin Wolf, who this is his real first NHL season, we're assuming, and he has 18 NHL games under his belt. So throwing him to the Wolves, no pun intended, for 40 games a year, or just 40 games this season, it feels like a lot. But at the same time, not giving him the opportunity feels a little unfair. But then you also you have to balance this. And I feel comfortable saying that giving him, 30 to 35 starts might be a good move. That might be the way to go, because you need to get him, again, more comfortable. But do you want Vladar starting 45 games or whatever the difference is there? Is that something you want? I don't know, because again, they have talked about being a competitive team this year. I don't know where that's necessarily coming from if you have inexperienced goaltending, which I think you do have here. I think, less than 100 NHL games between the two of them is inexperienced. But I think for for Wolf to have a breakout season, it doesn't look like a Connor Hellebuck season. It doesn't look like a UC Saros season right out of the gate. I think it's around a 900 save percentage. And I think that's fair. Of course, you'd love to have more. But his numbers prove that he's capable of hanging around the high 890s. So why can't we just up the expectation just a little bit? I think it's fair. I think that this defense is a lot, like, I feel more comfortable and confident with this defense that is in front of him now versus the one that was projected in April. I think that having, obviously some turnover there, Oliver Shillington signing with Colorado, Jake Bean coming in, Joel Hanley coming back, at 33 years old. Incredible stuff there. But, and then of course you have Mackenzie Weegar and Rasmus Anderson as your top pair. Like, there's changes, but there's also changes all around the roster. It's not just on the back end. So I do feel comfortable saying that. I don't want to put like any sort of number on starts or save percentage or goals saved above expected or anything like that, because goaltending is so hard to predict and to calculate. Like, you can go into the season and do, a projection for points based off of a player's past few seasons and however you're going to calculate it. Goaltending, you can predict it. You can try to, put together some numbers and formulate a player card or whatever, but that doesn't mean that's necessarily what you're going to get. And we've talked about it a lot on this show, especially with Jacob Markstrom, because he's an interesting fella, because he has the pattern of good year, bad year, good year, bad year. He had a good year this year. So does that mean he's going to be bad in, where is he? New Jersey? I don't know. Who knows, right? And I think a lot of people have put an unfair amount of pressure on Dustin Wolf and mainly target him because of his size, I would say. I feel like, he had like a few tough games at the NHL level last season, and people were so quick to be like, he's too small to be an NHL goaltender. But then he had he'll go on excellent runs, and it's like, oh, there it is. Doesn't matter that he's only 5'9". Size doesn't matter when you have the skill. And it's like, what? Pick a side. I really think that Dustin Wolf is going to have a great year. Great in terms of relativity to the rest of the team. I think it's important because when I say great, it's going to be a great first full professional season in the NHL for him. And coming up next, we're going to talk about another young gun, more than likely continuing to make the jump here from the Wranglers to the NHL. And we will be right back after this quick word from our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the app that you need to get you through the rest of the summer and to start looking at your NHL travel plans, because they have tickets and the best customer service that you could ever ask for. I am going to Calgary in October and will more than likely be checking out Game Time to at least see the view from my seats and probably purchasing tickets from there. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball as well, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, view from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And if you're not in the mood to go to a sporting event, good thing they have concert tickets, comedy, theater, you name it. Game Time has you covered. You can guarantee your ticket is your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks everyone for making Locked On Flames part of your day. I greatly appreciate it. You know, it's a long off season. So we got to get our fixes where we can, and this is the place to be. So thanks for hanging out. Matt Coronato is on my radar. I do think that realistically, he has to be seeing more NHL minutes. He's a great addition to the Wranglers, of course, and getting more minutes to continue your development isn't a bad thing by any means. But I feel like he is going to hopefully find sustainable success at the NHL level. Does he start the roster or start in the NHL and make the roster right out of camp? Possibly. I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't. I think that like again, this is a situation where I see it going either way simply because there's a valid case for either side. But I do think that he has been absolutely busting his tail to make improvements on his current game. He has struggled with skating and breaking bad habits and gaining momentum and picking up and sustaining that speed and that edge. And he has been working with a skating coach on it. I think that he just needs more time. The last year was his first pro season. And, that doesn't mean just because you have guys like Pospisil and Zary that break out as fast as they did, doesn't mean that's happening for everyone, as you can see. But I think Coronato is definitely poised for a solid breakout year. I really like what he has to offer. I think that his shot and his accuracy is going to be something that the Flames need. And once he picks up the skating, I think this is going to be another great player for them. And realistically, I would like to see him getting time on the power play. I think that what killed me last year was seeing him not on the power play. Like he got yanked from the power play, and Huberdeau was, obviously you make $10.5 million. You've played power play minutes before, so you're like routinely. So of course you're going to be slated on the power play. And Huberdeau just wouldn't shoot the puck. It was just passing. Give it to the kid who can shoot. I'm not saying you gotta take Huberdeau off for the season and let this young kid come in and take over, but like there were times where it was just unbearable to watch the Flames power play, and I would much rather them offer the other team to have that man advantage, because it was ugly. I think the biggest hurdle is going to be his own skill set and his own ability. I feel like if he doesn't come out with guns a-blazing and all the biggest chip on his shoulder to prove a point, I don't know if he's just going to coast into an NHL roster spot. I don't think that that's the case. They've talked about it year after year after year. It doesn't matter. You aren't guaranteed an NHL roster spot, even if you feel like it's your time. I think that Coronato isn't a player that is just going to coast by. We have seen this offseason that he has been putting in the work. A bunch of the Flames young kids have been posting their offseason workouts, and some of them are working out together. Martin Pospisil's busy posting photos with his BMW and in between workouts, but hey, get your bag. But But I think his Coronato's success is going to stem from these extra responsibilities and these opportunities. The power play is this perfect opportunity for him to develop more skills and execute what made him NHL draft eligible and had him at, what was it, the 12th overall pick, 13, 14, whatever it was. Playing at Harvard, he was a monster. Make the jump. I have a lot of faith in him, and I think that him and Pelletier are both going to have really good seasons. I was hoping for this. I was saying the same thing this same time last year, and then, of course, didn't happen. But I think realistically, you're going to want to see Coronato around 15 to 20 goals. Like, I would love to see him at 25 plus, but, like, again, rein in those expectations. 15, like last year, I remember we were doing kind of like expectations, and Nick and I kind of had him pegged for around like a 10 goal season would be great. And I that is still true, I think, but I am rooting for and actively expecting a 15 goal season should he be allowed all these extra opportunities. And by extra opportunities, I quite literally just mean power play time. I don't want to see him ping-ponging up and down between the AHL and NHL. I think that he'll obviously get more minutes down in the AHL, which is great, but like at some point you have to let him make that jump. And yeah, it's only his second pro season and whatever, but I think that the work that he put in last season and has put in up to this point has really pushed him to this level. And again, we talk about it all the time. Spite is your biggest motivator. And not that Coronato is spiteful by any means, but like just to kind of prove a point that he is capable of playing at the NHL level for maybe, it might not be for a full season, but just for an extended period of time with good, consistent offense. That's all I want. Do something. And, I don't know who I need to speak to for the Flames to have like a decent power play. Doesn't have to be number one in the league. We know that that's more than likely the Oilers spot with McDavid and Draisaitl, but I just want to see Matt Coronato on the power play. That's it. And I think that's very reasonable. Coming up next, we are going to wrap up the show with a little Kuzmenko talk because I feel like he can kind of get left in the shadows a little bit, but I think this is going to be a good year for him, and we're going to find out why right after we take a break, and we will be back right after this word from our sponsor, Indeed. We are driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching search engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for screening, scheduling, messaging, you name it, so you can connect with your candidates faster. And Indeed, it just doesn't help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Indeed is great. They are leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every single day. Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto. For my third, I guess, like breakout season candidate that I like, that I kind of expect to have a successful season would be Andrei Kuzmenko. He obviously came over in the Elias Lindholm trade from Vancouver along with Hunter Brustowicz and that was Hunter Brustowicz and draft pick. So I like Kuzmenko. I think he is fun. I think he is very funny. And he's a good hockey player. His first season over here from the KHL, I believe it was the KHL, he had 74 points in 81 games. He had 39 goals, which obviously pretty impressive. It takes, like, there are only a small percentage of NHL players that actually score, like, I think 30 plus goals a season. So for Kuzmenko to do that, it's pretty impressive. And then with Vancouver, where is it? His 2023-2024 season, he played 43 games and had 21 points. When Rick Tocchet came in and took over for Vancouver, Kuzmenko and him didn't necessarily mesh well. Things just did not work. Kuzmenko's minutes were cut, his roles shifted, and you were seeing a decrease in production. And that's what happens when you spend less time on the ice. But it wasn't working out. It wasn't necessarily something that Kuzmenko wanted to continue, and he still had a season and a half left on his contract. So he was eventually traded to the Flames, and he had 25 points in 29 games, 14 goals, and 11 assists. He came out like truly just like firing on all cylinders. He knew what he needed to do, and he did it. Before they traded for, or when they acquired him, the coaches and Conroy sat down with him or talked to him, and they were like, you're going to have more responsibility here. Because that's where you saw success. You had those opportunities, those additional opportunities, and you took advantage of them. You made the team better by being that player. And that's obviously, you want that. He brought, like, single-handedly revived the Flames power play. At some point, like towards the end of the season, it was actually something that was watchable. And you weren't just kind of like watching through your fingers like it's a horror movie, because I feel like that's at times that's what the power play was. Again, trying to stay positive here, but I like what Kuzmenko brings to the team. He's quiet in his media interviews and like very soft spoken, but he brings like good vibes. Again, vibes to the locker room, and you can tell that he is someone that the other players get along with. And at the end of the day, that's really what you want. You don't have to like everyone. No one likes everyone at their job, because that would be impossible. But it's not enough. There's no rift in the locker room because Kuzmenko's there. So, I like what he's done. I think that Huska has put a lot of faith and trust in him, which is fantastic, because, are you really trying to sign he'll be 28 8 almost at the deadline, or after the deadline, actually, or that's leading up to the deadline. So do you want to sign another 28-year-old to a longer term deal? You just did it with Uyghur. You didn't sign Mangiapane. You traded him away. Is Kuzmenko going to be a player that the Flames trade at the deadline? I thought I had them pegged as trading Mangiapane at the deadline, not in the middle of summer. But I do think that I don't think that he is in the Flames long-term picture. Whether he finishes up this contract and goes back overseas or signs another deal, I don't see him in the Flames long-term plan. And that's not a dig at him by any means. But, he had 46 points in 72 games. I think that he is a great addition to the Flames, top 6. Those top 6 minutes are going to do him well. The way that we saw him play once he was traded for and once he was acquired is the Kuzmenko that teams want, and that we all kind of were in shock and awe when he had those 39 goals. And that is not something you can necessarily repeat year after year after year after year. Again, unless you are someone special, like that upper echelon player. Kuzmenko is a fine player. I like him. I think he's good. But I do think the Flames flip him by the deadline. I think that he is a player that you can get assets for. And what are the Flames trying to do? They're not trying to win immediately. They're not buyers at the deadline. They're not projected to be buyers, I should say. And I think Kuzmenko is one of those players that he will continue his success of, pick up right where he left off, and teams will pay for that. He's absolutely obviously a short-term rental. Team, you don't have to pay him at the end of the season or for long. You just have to pay the prorated rate at the deadline and acquire that. But he's a solid deadline flip, and I hope that he does have a good season. I like him on the Flames. I think he's great, but he's not part of the long-term plan, and that's okay. But I do think this is a really good season for him. I'm hoping 25 goals, anywhere between 20 and 25 plus is fantastic. I think that he bounces back after having, a tough start to the season in Vancouver. But, he was almost playing at a point per game average. So that's pretty good. Pretty good. Coming up tomorrow, we will continue discussing our expectations for the season and just what might actually be around the corner. I hope you all have a fantastic day and enjoy the rest of your night, or whenever you're listening to this. Friday's episode will be a good one. You're going to want to stick around for that. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We are here for you every day during the regular season, and we're taking a little break here, just going down to 3 times a week for the remainder of August and beginning of September. So we will be back, and till next time, stay safe, stay warm, stay dry, stay cool, stay hydrated, wear chapstick, and remember to be kind.